Hey guys, it's good to be back in New Jersey where being as famous as me is normal. Uh, Living in Israel for the summer was a blast. It was also a bit of a fiasco. I plan to go back and do it right the next time, and Israel agreed. They don't want me visiting anymore. They want me to clear up all my paperwork with America and come back as an immigrant. But no more visiting because they've discovered how annoying it can be being with Americans who actually have a psych history and were diagnosed. And I think the British did too, because they have a consulate in Tel Aviv. Um, no hard feelings. It's just, well, the British consulate is my mom's favorite consulate, and she was being a bit stubborn, so I had to play hardball. Anyway, long story short, by the time my deportation flight landed in Newark, the UK government had realized that Trump was a relatively sane American. Okay, so let's talk some about New Jersey values and whether or not Josh can represent them in Congress. Um, Look at the party he joined, and let's start talking about his friends are the stars of that party. So while I was in the psych ward most recently, it's a long story. Um, there were some magazines. No, not that type of magazines. Get your mind out of the gutter until I'm ready to drag it there kicking and screaming. Now, just regular magazines and kind of outdated. But there was a New York Times, no, not New York, there was a Times magazine from this spring that did an expose on Elizabeth Warren, giving us her life story, and tried to present it as a sob story, which is really kind of pathetic considering that she's supposed to be like the representation of American women that the Democratic Party is holding up as like the old school feminists, not the new school feminists who, between the four of them, they really can't manage to put together a coherent, sellable platform, so they need Josh to be their big defender. Like, yeah, that's real feminist. Four young women hiding behind a middle-aged old man asking him to explain things to everyone because they don't know how to speak for themselves. I guess that is the future of the Democratic Party if you want it to look like one of my Mohammed cartoons. But I digress. Back to Elizabeth Warren. Apparently her sob story is she got pregnant when she was a student at George Washington University, something like that. Oh, wait. Or she dropped out so that she could marry her husband and then got pregnant. Either way, it boils down to her liking it bareback so much she couldn't even stay in school. Now, I know what people are saying. It was a different time and a different place, but my mama was stronger than that. My mama cooked with British recipes. So, a bit about my background and my mama. They don't call her Phyllis, the mother of that Philistine, for nothing. Her own father was the son of a Welsh immigrant and a Canadian immigrant. The Welsh immigrant was orphaned and ended up working on a ship for relatives. It was one of those transatlantic steamliners. Kind of romantic, like the Titanic, but without the death toll. And after one voyage across the Atlantic, his family got a letter from the family of a Canadian passenger who explained that she was pregnant and he had to do the right thing and marry her. So they got married and moved to America. But that was like my grandparents' generation. My mom learned from that lesson. So she and my dad waited until after graduating from college to get married and do what couples do on the wedding night. And my mom graduated with a math degree before they had Title IX, back in the early 60s when things were kind of rough and the civil rights movement was just kicking up and getting in gear. I know it started in the 50s in Arkansas and all that. Little Rock should ring a bell. But, yeah. My parents were the type who pushed the momentum a bit further. And when my mom got her math degree, her first job out of college was making math textbooks for the Catholic Church. And now my mom decided before she met my dad that she didn't feel like praying to a man. And that's why she left the Catholic Church. She became Jewish because she wanted a more united family, and she realized that being Jewish was important to her in-laws and to her future husband. So, my mom worked for a small publishing firm in Lower Manhattan that made textbooks for Catholic schools. And a lot of the nuns and priests who were thinking of leaving the order would get jobs there so they could sort of experience what secular life is like, but not fully be exposed to the secular world, so they could get a toe in the waters before diving in. Anyway, my mom used to brag to me that she made it her mission to get as many priests and nuns to leave the order as possible. Yeah, and people wonder why I act like Satan in the bedroom. But anyway, back to Elizabeth Warren, the bitch who couldn't keep her legs closed until she got her degree from GW. I was a student at GW. It's not that hard. I managed to go down on a woman before getting my degree and still, not do anything that might get anyone pregnant. And between you and me, Lutheran ladies are kind of shy. Yeah, I don't know whether or not Elizabeth Warren is Lutheran. So anyway, a lot of my classmates in GW also got married. One was a hallmate my freshman year. She got married because she wanted to take advantage of her husband's benefits. Her fiancé worked for the military, and it just made sense for her to get the free tuition that was a spousal benefit for spouses of military personnel. So, she already started college with a relationship, and marriage was a logical next step. They were in love, and having the state recognize their union made it possible for them to move on more. Now, that was back when a certain Clinton administration that Josh volunteered for sanctified the don't ask, don't tell policy of the American military. And you might say, well, why does anyone need to know what you're doing in the bedroom? And they don't. But they need to know if you have a spouse so that you can get those spousal benefits. Because people recognize right away that having a spouse is more significant than having a lover or a boyfriend or girlfriend. Because when the military provides housing for spouses, it doesn't provide houses for the latest bitch. It provides houses for a wife. It doesn't provide houses for the latest stud. It provides houses for a husband. And the same with a lot of other benefits. People understand that marriage means relocating if you have to. It's a step beyond getting the ink and the pen together. Now, another friend of mine and classmate at GW got married to a nice woman his senior year, and he and his wife just lived off campus for a year. So it's not that difficult finishing a degree when you're married if you're willing to at least wear a condom. But I guess some people like it bareback so much they just need it raw and are willing to drop out of school to focus on it. Now let's see. Odds are 50-50 that Warren dropped out as a teenager because she was an undergraduate at the time. So that makes her your classic teenage pregnancy crying welfare queen. Oh, I don't know if she collects welfare herself, but she wants a new form of welfare where everyone gets free childcare. Yeah, this is the model we want to create for our nation. One where we encourage women to get pregnant and drop out of college because don't worry, we've got your back since you couldn't protect your front. Oh, and I saw on the news while I was in the forensic unit of the psych ward, I should say the forensic unit of the prison system, because even though that forensic unit was inside the county hospital, legally it was part of the prison system. So a slightly different set of the rules. Instead of just locking the door to the ward like they do to patients who haven't been charged with any crime if they happen to go to a psych doctor instead of a cardiologist, in the forensic unit, there's also a button that the security guard can press anytime they want to lock one or all of the or more of the patients in their rooms, and it automatically closes the door. So you really have to be at peace with yourself in order to endure that. And as a matter of general principle, if I'm living in a spot, then that spot is my bedroom. So I'm going to do what a normal man does when he's alone in his bedroom with the door closed and locked. And, well, everyone knows I'm not camera shy. And this kind of upset the staff there for a while until they finally saw my logic, because every single night I'm like doing what I do, and the security guard can see it on camera because he's watching. But the way I figure, there's no reason for him to be watching me on the camera. I wasn't even convicted. It was just pretrial detention. And this was before I got to see a judge with a lawyer next to me arguing against pretrial detention. I'm not really sure how that system works, because they sent me to the forensic unit, which is part of the prison unit. Anyway, maybe they broke some rules, but lawyers can figure that out. I just understand that habeas corpus means a day when a day is less than 26 hours. So, where was I? Oh, okay. The news report on TV said that the lead candidates for the Democratic Party so far for president in the primaries are Elizabeth Warren, Harris, Biden, and Sanders, that guy from Vermont. So let's handle the old white men first. Biden, yeah, he's Jewish, but he's an old white man who already lost. And he's the type of Jew who went to Vermont because he couldn't cut it in New York. A lot of people in New York City, they're the type of hippies who can keep themselves going by promising one group of people that they're going to take money from other people and give it to them. And those people are called voters. And that's why we call it socialism. Socialism inherently tends to be there's a reason they called it the German Workers' Socialist Party. But the easiest way to take money or labor from one group and give it to voters is to make sure you're taking it from people who never vote. Like people who are on work visas but not on a pathway to citizenship anytime soon. Why do people representing certain districts insist on maintaining the current immigration law? I mean, they really know they're representing constituents. They're representing the people who can actually vote. And a lot of their voters like the fact that they have so many hardworking immigrant neighbors that they can suck the lifeblood out of and financially leech off through the tax system. It's like, we'll allow you to live in the country if you work extra hard in these jobs no one else wants to do, because those sectors have established a certain norm where they can't find natural-born citizens to staff those sectors because it's hard work for below market rate. If we handed out all our visas through the visa diversity lottery and opened it up to all countries, and maybe for the sake of fairness and foreign policy, created reciprocity visa where we can tell another country, look, we'll give your citizens 10,000 immigration visas every year if you give our citizens 10,000 immigration visas every year. Those really should be the only two types of visas, except for maybe refugee. Yeah, definitely refugee visas. And I can see the argument for family unification. But visas based on employment demand? That's just way too socialist for us. Anyway, so that summarizes the Vermont crew. And Biden, Delaware. Delaware is the Wall Street of America. That's where all the corporate CEOs set up their headquarters if they want to take advantage of the most generous tax and regulation environment in the country for corporations. So Biden's constituents specialize in taking money from one group of people, called customers, and giving it to another group of people, called investors. But it's a voluntary system, and it doesn't take that long to buy stock. And you can buy stock if you're in any country that does business with America. So, in terms of freedom and respect for foreigners, the Biden crew is really more likely to be better than the Sanders crew, because the corporate system is more respectful than the Vermont system. I mean, just think about Wall Street and what it was like back in the day when it was part of New Amsterdam.